So how did I make this? BFYT. That's what we're going to go over today. And this is going to be a high level overview. I'm not going to necessarily walk you through the entire thing, but more of like the general aspects of how I made this. So let me go ahead and close this. So first off, the shoe scene, where you could just see my shoes. I had to do a green screen specifically for the shoes. Now I have a lighting setup. This is when I do the zooms, and when you see me, I use these lights. So the one to the left is I use for the fill, one to the right I use for the key light, and then these bar lights here, they're more for like the hair lights. So this was just to do the shoe scene. Now for the green screens, it's very difficult because you have the software side of the settings and the physical side. So sometimes you do all this work with the green screen only to find out you have to completely redo it because there's some shadows or stuff. So you see the little wrinkles and stuff. That's what made it look bad for the shoe scene, was that the wrinkles made a different color. And for a green screen, it has to be a uniform color. So this is kind of giving you an idea. This was just for the shoes. So I'm going to close this and we can see it here. So this was kind of a test that I did. So using the lights that I showed you. So here's my shoe. And we have some of the shadows. So the shadows is what threw it off essentially. But also the green is reflective. And so since this is a white shoe, the white then had some green on it. So that ended up being an issue as well because it was being reflective. So if I had more time, what I probably could have done is I could have made this better. I could have made it more smooth, but it's not just something you can do in software. It's if you want to do a green screen, there's a lot of work you have to do in order to have the green screen working physically. Of, you know, has the correct lighting, has no shadows on it. It's a very clean and smooth surface. So it's a lot of prep work. So I'm going to close this. So after I did the shoe scene, now it was for me to dance and stuff. And we can see here are the lights. So I have the key and fill lights. I have the little hair light over here. And I tried to make this as smooth as possible. And it looks pretty decent. So the next step was for me to record myself. So before that, what I did was the pen, pineapple, apple, pen. I edited it to make sure the music was right. So that way, when I dance and stuff, I can use it as a reference. So you can see here, I added a BFYT. So as I was dancing, I had this playing in the background and I was watching it. So that way I can make sure my timing was correct for the music. And I had the little, the words here overlaid with what I actually needed to do. I have a blender. So that way I said the right thing at the right time. So this was playing on my computer screen while I was dancing. And we can see me here. BFYT. Now you notice here that I'm looking to the side. So I did this entire scene from the front, and then I did another recording, but this time I did it to the side. So that way it gave the illusion that I had multiple cameras. So it's from a single camera from a single direction. But what I did was I redid the recording, but myself at a different orientation to give that illusion that I had another camera. So it was just some fancy camera work. And I did that for some of the other stuff too, like the ending part and some of the other scenes. But let's go over, you know, some of the things I probably should have done differently. So there's a bunch of wrinkles, and anytime you have wrinkles for a green screen, it's going to decrease the res you have for the green screen. That's an unfortunate thing about it, but also the floor. So because I'm standing on the surface, if I actually want to do this right, I wouldn't be doing a tarp like this. I would probably actually have a structure of like plywood and stuff where it's the green chroma key and have that as the floor and then have like a wall behind that. So essentially the next level up from this, if I want to do this right for dancing and stuff, is I would need a physical green screen structure, not this tarp, because this tarp has, you know, the wrinkles and stuff. And another thing, the lighting. So we can kind of see here of like, I have the hair light, but it's lighting up the background in a weird way. So if I had more time, if I really want to spend more time on it, what I should have done was I should have created a specific lighting setup just for the green screen. So it would illuminate the green screen. So it would be a uniform color and not myself. But anytime you do that, you have the issue that it bounces off. So having a light shine on the green screen then bounces back as like a green light. So you gotta be careful with the lighting setup, and it takes a lot of time and work to get it just right. So in this video, it was just kind of like a proof of concept of just trying to get it out there because again, doing a video every single day. So that's how I did the recording setup for the green screen. Now let's talk about the actual blend file. So here we can see I have myself, that's right. So you see the orientation is different. That's because for some reason, when Blender imports this, it gets confused on the orientation because you took it from your phone. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. But that's fine because I was just trying to get the alpha transparency from this. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But first off, we're in the compositing workspace. Inside of the compositing workspace, we can then modify images, or movies. So we have this, the movie clip. So I'm importing this movie clip, and then I have keying. So Blender has a really good green screen option. And essentially all you have to do is this. You have to just pick the correct color. So that's why I was trying to tell you about the uniform color, where the wrinkles and stuff, you have issues. So we can see like a little thing right here that's probably a bad wrinkle. And there's a lot of other stuff with the keying, but in general, I mean, yeah, it's just something you want to keep in mind. Now we have this, we have the image, and this is just for hue correction. And what's cool about this is we essentially take out that green. So again, the chroma key. So what this does is it takes out that green, so that way we can just ignore it. So it's the hue correction. And over here, we have the Rgb curves. The Rgb curves, here, if I just modify this, we can change essentially the color contrast of it. So pretty nice. And let me just put it back. And again, this is the hue correction. So it's really nice having both the keying and the hue correction. Now I have the alpha over here. This is just for the viewer. Now the viewer is what we're seeing right now. So the alpha over is just so that way I can see how well the alpha transparency is working. So it doesn't actually add to anything to the final output. Then of course we have the composite, which is using the alpha. So there's a lot of moving parts here. So I'll probably do a tutorial in the future of like walking through this, of like, you know, the different settings and stuff of making it perfect. But this is the compositing. So what I did was over here, I have the output. I set it up to render to a folder. This is the wrong folder, but you can see where it's the alpha transparency is cropped. So then I do render animation. And then what happens here, so I have the correct folder. I'm just going to open it. We then have a PNG. We can see the alpha transparency, but we can still see that it has parts of the image. So, but that's good enough for what I was doing. So I didn't have to crop it out anymore. So the next thing is to actually import this into Blender. So this is what it looks like now imported into Blender. So we can see this is a image. So here, let me enable the masking. Oh, sorry, disable the masking. So we can see this is me and this is Blender. So what's really cool about this is it's in a 3D space. And since I have the alpha transparency, I can have stuff in the background, so behind me or in front of me. So there's a lot of cool stuff I can do. So let me just zoom into this. So you can see this is me. And the more I zoom in, the worse it looks. So in the future, what I probably should have done is I should have done a higher camera resolution up close instead of just using the same one, because further away, it looks better. But yeah, so this is the alpha transparency of the image. If I go into shading, I can show you what it looks like. So go into render view. So what I have is I have myself, and this is a image. And here in the shading for this, so the actual material for this plane, I have the frames. So if we go in here, so all the, not all these, all these frames are selected. And then what happens is from that alpha, I do a mixed shader. So we have the transparent and the emission. So the reason why I do the emission is so that way it's shadeless. So that's an easy trick to make things shadeless, is to have it as an emission for Eevee. And then I have the transparent to actually make it look transparent. And for the correct shadow, this is important, is over here in shadow mode, you need to have an as alpha clip. Otherwise, it's going to think the entire plane is solid rather than, clipping out yourself. So that's how I then imported the alpha transparent into it. And real quick, let's go into UV editing, and you can kind of see what I did. So this is why I wasn't worried about parts of it not being fully alpha transparent. What I did was I did a UV map and essentially just grabbed the portion that I want. So I know that this seems like a lot of steps, and unfortunately it is a lot of steps. But if you have a plan, you can do some really cool stuff. Because now I am alpha transparent in a 3D environment in Blender. So there's a lot of cool stuff I can do with this. So let's go back to animation. I'm just going to scroll out a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of go to the side, and you guys can kind of watch and see how this works. So we see here, what I did was I just have it scaled down. So I changed the size of it to give the illusion that it was further away. BFYT. So we can see here, this one is a different video. It's mapped differently, the UV. Because I couldn't get the UV right. So for certain scenes, what I did was I just swapped it out in order to make it look good. I have a blender. I have a 4. Blender 4. I have a 2. I have a U. U2, Blender 4. And then here's the shoes. And we can kind of see if we're talking about, the alpha transparency, not the greatest. It's the shadows, you can see it. And then sometimes it's the wrinkles in the fabric. For U2. Blender for U2. Blender for YouTube. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was essentially a workflow of how I made the BFYT music video as the intro for my YouTube channel. So up next is I'm going to do a bunch of tutorials on Blender, and eventually with a core foundation of Blender established, then I'm going to walk you guys through specifically on how I did the green screen, of all the setup you have to do. So please subscribe, and I can't wait for you to join me on this journey.